Bruchim Avoim B'Shem Hashem B'Shem Yigin Shirter. I'd like to welcome everyone to today's shir from Rabbi Yakov that's Mitzlita on carrying that is medically necessary on Shabbos. Have great schus is sponsoring the shir called Yigin Shirter 718-851-865. Want to email ist@yeshivanet.com. Harav Smith.
A while ago we heard the shaila from someone who had a certain medical condition and he had to carry on his person at all times medicine just in case he has an attack. It was an angina attack. And the question is, what does he do for Shabbos? If there's a place where there's no Erev, and today we're talking about, of course, where there's no Erev, is there any hat of him to go out with medicine somehow, maybe with a shinui? We had a shaila of a bacha that has a very severe allergic reaction to some foods or to a bee bite, and he has to carry at all times an EpiPen, it's called, EpiPen, which basically, if he has an attack and he can't breathe, it opens the passages and Pasha could save his life. But then again, it's Shabbos. And then the third child, that really was interesting. This could be in a gay if someone has intravenous or he has any type of feeding tube. So typically they attach him to the machine when necessary. But to make it easy at all times, what's called a port. Basically, it's attached to the place where the insulin or the feeding tube goes into, and that little piece of plastic is attached to his guf at all times. So whenever he needs insulin or he needs the feeding tube, they attach it. And again, it's something that stays 24/7. Is a mutter to go out with it on Shabbos because basically it's functionless. So the truth is, it's easy for us to say, don't go out, stay home. But tell a person for the rest of his life he's on the house arrest on Shabbos and Yom Kippur is not the right thing if it's not the right thing. Besides the fact that he's missing tefillah, Torah, he's missing simchas, but it's also very detrimental to someone's health when he can't do what he wants to do. Ruach ish yichalka machaleu, the Chacham Goldam writes. But it's noteworthy because there's a Teves in Shabbos Daf Nunam at Beis. Teves talking about a different thing, something that's mitzayer a person. And Teves says these heilige Werte. This alone, that he can't go bein b'nei Adam, ein lechatzar gadol mizeh. If someone loses social life, even for Shabbos, because he can't do it, that's a terrible tsar. So here we have, I guess, the two superpowers. We're talking about a person's health, which is so important. We're also talking about the Heilige Shabbos. And to tell a person to stay home every Shabbos for the rest of his life is going to be a very difficult psak to accept. So the question is, first of all, is there any heta? Because of the fact that he's a chole. You see, we know that a chole has two very big heterim over an average person. Number one, Shulchan Aruch says in Shin Chav Ches Sif Yud Zayin that although Amir La'akum is very chamer, but when it comes to Amir La'akum for a chole, he can even do a malacha deraisa. For those that have elderly parents and they have an aide, a goyish aide, and the parent is a chole she'ein by sakana, so the aide could do anything. The aide could cook for the person, of course, if it's not bishalakum, put on lights, carry. Because when it comes to a chole, even aim by sakana, Amir La'akum is mut across the board. So we see, regarding a chole, there's one significant heta of Amir La'akum. Additionally, a regular person can't take medication, pain relief. But a chole could. So we see regarding two major halachos, there is a heta for a chole. So our question today is, maybe we'll apply that to carrying medicine. Or we'll soon see other questions, an insulin pump, and the various shilas of a chole that needs something, Maybe there's a special heta for a chole. Then, of course, it'd be mutter to go out with what he needs. But maybe we could do a little better. Because we know we all could wear begadim, we all could wear tachshitim. Why is a beged mutter? Of course you have to wear a beged, but why is it mutter? Why is a tachshit mutter? So the Paiskim explain, it becomes part of the person, it's bottled to the guf. So maybe we'll say that a chole that needs this medicine or this pump or whatever it is, and he goes with it all day, 7 days a week, maybe it becomes part of him. So what comes to mind first is another common question that comes up in different forms. And that is a person that's unable to walk. Let's talk about an older person or a person that went through an accident and he can't walk without his cane. The question is it mutar on Shabbos? Because don't forget, we get used to it, people go with canes. But he's not wearing a cane. It's not a tachshit, he's carrying it. Carrying as in haitzah. What's the heta to carry a cane? Today we have the question regarding crutches. For those that broke a foot, they have crutches. Today there's a much more comfortable way of getting around. It's called a walker. You push the walker, it's much easier to walk. More recently, they devised something, a big chesed for those that need it. It's called a scooter crutch. Basically, one foot is broken, one foot is functional. So he walks with the healthy foot, and the other foot's on a scooter, and he's able to walk comfortably, quickly. Are these things mutar? Is a wheelchair mutar on Shabbos? No doubt about it. It makes going a lot easier. Crutches is very, very strenuous. So again, in Svara, how could someone go in a wheelchair on Shabbos? He's carrying the wheelchair. He's transporting the wheelchair. The Paiskim discuss, I saw this, the Marshag writes emphatically in Chelik Beis, the end of Siman Yud Gimel, that for a person to bike on Shabbos, a healthy person, he gets on a bike and he drives through the city, is no doubt a malacha deraisa, because he's transporting the bike. He's pedaling it, adrabah. That's the way he moves the bike. And other places say this as well. A bike is a form of haitzah deraisa. So why should a wheelchair be different? The fact that he pushes it with his hands, so he's transporting the wheelchair. So here we have a beautiful sugya, which has again its own nafkaminas, and that's based on a Machab and Sif Yud Zayin. Says the Machaba, quoting a number of Rishonim, a chiger, a person that's lame, unable to walk on his own 2 feet, and as the Shulchan Aruch stresses, he can't walk without a cane, then it's mutar to go with a cane. If he could walk, it just makes it easier, then leave it home for Shabbos. But we see mafurish, a person that cannot walk is allowed to use a cane on Shabbos. But it's even more negeya to us, there are more on this sif, quotes a rekeach in Siman Reish Tzadik Tes, a chole that's Amad Micholya, he got better, but he's still weak, is allowed to use a cane on Shabbos. Oh, so we see a special heta regarding a chole. Cane, he's carrying it. A cane to me is the worst child, he's carrying a cane. So maybe this is a raya to our premise. When someone's a chole and he can't get around without his medicine or his EpiPen, maybe it's mutar. But it's very hard to accept that. Or, better yet, it's a nice way of saying it's wrong. The comparison from a cane to medicine is wrong, and I'll tell you why. The emes is, why tak is a cane mutar? The fact that it helps him is not the heta. Varaya, the Shulchan Aruch stresses, if he could go without the cane, he can't use the cane. So what's the heta of carrying a cane? And the Chavetz Chaim writes clearly in Bir Halacha, on our Siman Yud Zayin, that if he could go without the cane and he takes the cane, it's a tzad d'oraisa. So it's not a stam chumrah. The question is, so why then is a cane mutter? So if you look at the Rosh in Beya, Perek Gimel, Siman Hey, which is the makar of the heta of cane, he has a kasha. A chiga could take a cane. A suma, who walks fine, but he needs it for direction, cannot use a cane. Frek the Rosh, what's the chiluk? So the Rosh says two key words that we're going to use for all of these shilas. And basically, since he can't walk without the cane, kimin olam didei, it becomes his shoe. The cane becomes his shoe. Why? Pashut. Without the cane, he's immobile. He's paralyzed. He can't move. The cane, he walks. So the Rosh tues off a chiddush that the cane is like his shoes. Now the emes is the later poskim. I found a whole list that use a better term, I think, and that is regel didei. Now the Rosh didn't use that, so I'm not saying it's better, but it's easier to understand. A person that can't walk, but with a cane he walks, the cane becomes his foot. So we have the yisoid that the reason why he's mutter, not because he's a chole, because he can't walk without it, and now it becomes part of him. The blind person has good feet. Him is no heta. What's taka the heta of shoes? What's taka the heta of clothing? Because it's so much of importance to him, it becomes bottle. So the Rosh is machadish that a cane that gives me ability to walk becomes his shoe, becomes his foot. There's no issa wearing shoes or going with feet on Shabbos. Oy bazo, you could understand if he's basically okay, but he takes it just to be reassured. There's no heta. Bilach calls it the raisa. Why? Because it's not regularly day. He walks without it. But more so than Yanenu, how could you compare a cane to medicine? The cane is his foot, so it's mutter. The medicine is not his foot. He needs it. So stay home and don't need it. So the heta comparing a cane to medicine is wrong. But we could do better. But listen to this, how every word of halacha is so important. The Shulchan Aruch allows going with a cane on Shabbos. How about crutches? So all the poskim say, zil basa taima. If he can't walk without the crutches, and the crutches are helping him walk, so it's regular day. It's two crutches. So if he needs two crutches, that's his feet. I should mention, the poskim say that if he only needs one of the crutches, then don't take two. But to take in crutches, whatever he needs, is regular day. Now, L'idach Gisa, again, to show out the contrast, the Shulchan Aruch and Siv Chaf will soon speak about it. It's a Purim Siv about masks and costumes. One of the examples is a person that goes in the street with stilts. A healthy person, but he has these two sticks, He talks about when you go in mud, could be on Purim. This year Purim is Erev Shabbos, so Shabbos becomes part of Purim. Can you go with stilts on reshusharabim? Mechaber says no. Why not? Why is stilts different than crutches? Teretz is pashut. Crutches is regular day, and stilts are not. So we have crutches and a cane. Today they devised a wonderful help. It's called a walker. A walk is much easier than a cane. But all the poskim, I saw the Shmir Shabbos, the Hilchos Shabbos, B'Shabbos, and all the Heintige poskim say, zil basa taima. If you can't walk without the crutch, without the walker, it's the same heta. What's the difference? It's more convenient, so there's no issa. In fact, the poskim say that the scooter should also be mutter. Because if he can't walk without it, and this helps him walk, it's the same heta of regular day. So we have a cane, crutches, walker, and a scooter crutch. Now, let me show you how the word regel didei is so crucial. What about someone that can't even walk with a cane? He has to be wheeled in a wheelchair. Is it mutter on Shabbos to go out with a wheelchair? So, pashit, if he can't walk without it, why not say regel didei and it's mutter? And Rav Moshe Taka in Chelik Dalet Siman Tzadik, yesh tam gadol hatirai, because this is the way he goes. And he quotes the Rosh that it's minol didei, but he takes it a step further, and he says maybe a wheelchair is a better heter than a cane. A cane, he's carrying it. Let's be honest, he's carrying it, but it's mutter. A wheelchair, he's sitting in it. Maybe it's like a malbush that encompasses him, and it's more mutter. But no doubt about it, Rav Moshe holds that a yid doesn't need a guy to push him. He gets in the wheelchair and he pushes himself. The heter is regel didei. Rav Moshe, in fact, goes so far to say that there's no heter to have a guy push him around, because he could do it himself. If he does it himself, it's perfectly mutter. To have a guy do it is a mir la'akum. Was felt the chayes? Certainly no heter for you to push him. Rav Moshe holds that a wheelchair is like a cane. Why have a guy? So that's no doubt about it, that the heter of a wheelchair is regel didei. I saw the Evan Yisrael, we saw Yanka Fisher, Chelik Tesim and Yud, the Arletzian, Chav Gimel Hay, and the Shmir HaShabbos, Lamadal, Chav Zayin, all take the same approach. A wheelchair is a new type of regel didei. However, I must tell you, there's a big makam l'chalek. And think about it, it's quite obvious. A cane is legitimate regel didei, because with the cane, he walks with his own 2 feet. That is regel didei. In a wheelchair, he is not walking. In fact, wheelchairs are designed for people that don't have feet. So how does a wheelchair work? It transports him. It moves him. Who said that's a heter of regel didei? The regel didei is that the cane becomes his foot and he walks with his own 2 feet. I heard from Adam Gadol Moed, when he was confined to a wheelchair, so he was very positive. He said, wheelchair is the luxury of old age. Instead of struggling to get from place to place, I get a chauffeur service. He gets wheeled around. That's a good understanding. It's not regel didei. He's being driven in a motorless wheelchair. So the Har Tzvi, in Kuf Ayin, before Moshe was printed, he just says, don't compare a wheelchair to a cane. A cane is mutter, and a wheelchair is asa. The wheelchair cannot become regel didei. And the Minchas Yitzchak Chelik Beis, Siman Kuf Yud Beis, take the same approach. So according to this understanding, there's no heter for the yid to push himself. The better option, if it's negeya, if a guy do it. It's a mir la'akum, and we're talking about when it's not a reshusharabim deraisa, that'll be mutter. But the beauty of the sugya is the word regel didei makes all the difference. In a simple question of a wheelchair, is it regel didei or not? Now Moshe must have held that if he gets around, that's the regel didei. Medicine is not regel didei. Now lamaisa, who am I to machriya? But I was thinking, if a person lives in a place that's not reshusharabim deraisa, it's probably safer to have a guy push him. Why? Manashach. According to the Paiskim that hold wheelchair is no good, that's the only heter. It's a shvus, the shvus, the Makkah mitzvah, Mila'akum, Karmelis. Even Rav Moshe, that holds Yid could do it, but he still is moida that if a guy does it in a Karmelis, it's mutter. If it's just a harabim deraisa, then you have this very, very challenging shaila. But Avada, Moshe was the Paisik Hadar, if someone soymech on him, so it would be perfectly mutter for the Yid to wheel himself. Now Moshe in that tshuva does point out 2 problems. Number one, when a person is wheeling himself and gets to a curb, I guess he's talking about before, today's curbs are wheelchair friendly. But what do you do when it gets to a curb? So Moshe says if someone's around, could lift the wheelchair and put him up on the curb. He's carrying reshusharabim, less than halachos. The real problem is when he gets to his destination. Let's say he lives in a walk-in. So that's a halachos, that's good. But he gets to shul and it's a flight of stairs. He says that wouldn't be a heta. So he has a whole cheshbon. If one guy picks it up partially, the other guy the other way. But practically speaking, the eitzah would be for someone that has a wheelchair and can't get it up the steps, because you're not allowed to carry it up the steps, before Shabbos, attached to the railing, to the whatever's outside of the shul or house, a chain with a combination lock. And when you get to shul or get home, you lock up the wheelchair and leave it downstairs. Hopefully someone will help them up the steps. But even the heta of carrying, there's no heta of carrying the wheelchair up the steps. And that's something you have to keep in mind in advance to work out an eitzah. But what the beauty of the sugya is that a crutches, a scooter, crutch, the walker are fine. The only issue is by a wheelchair, because we can't say by that, according to some, regel d-day. So now what do we have? We have this heta of regel d-day is very helpful in that group of questions. But now, our shaila of carrying medicine or carrying an EpiPen, it has no relevance whatsoever. Because the EpiPen is not regel d-day. It's very important, don't get me wrong, if he has an attack, it's life and death. But it's not regel d-day. The Bacham asks, why don't we say that for the Summa, the cane is ain of d-day? But there's no such thing. Regel d-day we find. So that's why for a Summa is asa, because it's not regel d-day. And that's why medicine, the chari there's no heta. So it could be very helpful, and also has its own group of halachos l'maisa, is someone asked me a very simple question. He has a pretty deep cut, and he has a gauze pad, and has tape over it. Is it mutter on Shabbos to go out with a gauze pad, with a band-aid? So that's easy, that's a Gemara. Mechaben simin siv chav beis, today everything is shin aleph. You're allowed to go out with a moich, usvoig alamaka, lefi shehem merapim, hilkach havi k'moi tachshit. Mechaba is a little mysterious. A moich is an old-fashioned band-aid. It also was medicated, so it had a refuah. So the Mechaba is saying you're allowed to go out with a medicated band-aid. I guess there's no problem with refuah because maybe there's an infection. Why isn't it carrying? Not regularly day. So the Mechaba says, k'moi tachshit. It's like a jewelry. Now, I don't know about you, but why is a band-aid that's bloodied considered a tachshit? What's shot in the Mechaba? But there's another halacha, and that's Siv Chav Dalid, based on a Mishnah and a Gemara in Shabbos of Samach Dalam at Beis. Again, those days they were very into not unconventional healing, as we'll see from many Gemaras, but they would believe a lot in these kameyas, these sort of supernatural refuahs. So the Mechaba says, based on a Mishnah, you're allowed to go out with a certain type of grass that he attached to his person, and it's there the refuah. Why isn't it carrying? So if the Mishnah Berurah, hu b'chlal kameya mumcha. Kameya mumcha means a proven charm. I don't know if that's the right word, but it's not, again, not a regular conventional healing. It's a supernatural. So you're allowed to go out wearing a grass necklace, l'mashal. Why is that mutter? So if you look at Rashi on that Mishnah of Samach Amar Aleph, Kimeya Mumcha Shari, listen to this: the Tachshiru l'chayla ke'echad mi malbushav. Rashi is being really aggressive. A little grass is not only a tachshit; it's a malbush. Again, we are puzzled. Why is grass a tachshit or a malbush? Toysvis Daf Nun Zayin, the end of the Masuk B'mei Isha, also wonders why is a kameya mutter? So Teves says it's a malbush gomor, machmas harafua. Rashi and Teves are convinced it's a malbush. Why is it a malbush? But wait, we see even more. Another mechaber, this is Sif Chav Zayin, based on a Gemara. And again, those days they were a little more into this than today. You're allowed to go out on Shabbos with a bayas chargoil, which is a grasshopper egg, uveshen shel shul. This is even more unique. A person has a fox's tooth that he's wearing. Imagine someone comes into shul Shabbos morning, there's a fox's tooth dangling from his neck. And people will run away. But this is perfectly mutter. So the Mechaber says it's not darkei amoiri, because in those days it was a kimeya mumcha. Zok the Mechaber, all these are mutter, v'chein b'chol dava shehu mishum refuah. The most unusual refuahs. Kimeya mumcha is mutter because it's refuah. What's pshat? The teretz is, and this is the aside that Rashi and Teves both say, that it's like a malbush and a tachshit. And we're puzzled. So let me tell you the last halacha, and then we'll apply it lemaisa. Zok the Mechaber and Siv Chav Ches. Someone has a wound on the bottom of his foot, and he's afraid to go to shul because he might step on something and might open the wound or affect the wound. So he could wear he could wear a matbeya, either a coin mamish or a piece of metal on the bottom of his foot. He attached it to the bottom of his foot. Shelo yinogev haraglav, v'gam hu merape. You wear this on the underside of the foot because it's a refuah, and it protects him from further damage. So the Mishtabura, make up your mind. What's the heta? Is it both merape and refuah, or maybe mishamer, protection is enough? Mishtabura quotes El Yerabba from B'Shem Kama Paiskim that even if it's not merape, it's doing nothing, but it's protection, it's maintaining what we have. Mishamer is enough of a heta. So this is really broadening the heta of refuah. Refuah, kameya, fox's tooth, fine. Even mishamer, fine. What's the pshat? So again, what's the heta of wearing a malbush? What's that wearing a tachshit? Now, avada, we live with emunah, but we don't learn with emunah. I heard it from my bris once. What's the heta of a tachshit? So don't have a tachshit. The teretz is very pashut. Something that is normally worn derech levisha becomes part of a person. The Rambam has such a lashon regarding a different halacha that malbushim and tachshitim are bottled to the person. If it's normally worn derech malbush, it's fine. Rashi and Teves, based on the Gemaras, is expanding that to any dava refuah, because isn't it logical that refuah is a bigger tzorech than a tachshit? So any tzorech refuah that's worn is the same heta of a malbush and a tachshit. Not that it's a tachshit lamais, it's not a tachshit. But anything that's worn has the same heta like a malbush and a tachshit. Now, of course, you can't carry it in your hand because like a malbush has to be worn. But the side is we're called dav hamerape, or better heta of kameya mumcha. A kameya mumcha becomes part of the person, like a malbish, like a tachshit, both. So we have two shining examples of heta, regel didei and dav hamerape. So now, do we find what we're looking for? Is that a heta to carry an EpiPen or medicine? Avada not. Push it. Why? Because the fox's tooth, even though we don't believe in it today, but in those days it was considered an ongoing refuah. Wherever he walked, he had his grass or his fox's tooth, and it was constantly functioning. It was giving him a refuah. Even the case of Meshamer, was a constant shmira. When someone has a angina, and chas v'shalom he has an attack, you have to be chal Shabbos for him. But when he's sitting at home, he has no problem. When he goes to shul, he also has no problem. Why is he carrying his medication? He might need it. But until he needs it, it's not a refuah. It's not a meshamer. A meshamer means it's protecting him every moment he walks on the street. This is just in case. That's not the conventional refuah or meshamer. So we learned two yesodis, but it wasn't an effort of futility. We learned about Regel Day, and we saw a number of halachos. Wheelchair, crutches, scooter crutches, walker, that's one. Then we saw refuah, and we'll soon give examples, is also mutter. But that's not yet the heta for carrying medicine. So it probably is a chiddush of the Shulchan Aruch in Shin Chav Ches Sif Yud Zayin. There the Mechaber talks very clear about dealing with the chole she'ein by sakana on Shabbos. So the Mechaber, if you have an ein by sakana, a guy could be asked to do any malacha. And again, people have elderly parents who typically are ein by sakana, so a guy could do whatever they need. If the person wants a hot drink, the guy could cook up the water. Then the Mechaber said, what about a yid tending to another yid? So there are a number of shittas, but the Mechaber says clearly that for a chole's needs, a yid, whether the chole himself, Zoktar Shulchan, or another yid, there's no difference. For the needs of a chole she'ein by sakana, a yid could do a malacha d'Rabbanan with a shinui. For example, if he needs an LED light, which is d'Rabbanan, and there's no guy available, the yid himself or a family member with a shinui, with an elbow, could put the light on. This is the Rabbanan. No, it's not a derais because there's no eish. The teretz is for tzarchei chole she'ein by sakana. There's a heta of shvus, the Rabbanan, b'makom shinui. And this, all the poskim agree. There's another heta, and that's in Shin Zayin Sif Zayin, not as big of a heta because it's a Magen Avram. Magen Avram says, b'makom hefsek gadol, we could have a guy do a malacha d'Rabbanan, and there's no guy available, the yid could do it with a shin, malacha d'Rabbanan with a shin. This is a big chiddush. It's not a chayla. There's a makom hefsid gadol. Now, the Meister Prima Godim of Hanart, interesting, does not mention the Magen Avram. It's very rare. But he says there's no heta doing a shvus to shvus, even b'makom mitzvah. So he doesn't mention the Magen Avram, but he does argue. But the Bialacha in Shin Tezai and Sif Yud Beis and Shin Mem Tes clearly goes with this Magen Avram, as does the Chazinish in Kuf Gimel Sif Yud Tes. So here we have a much more promising heta, that if there's a chayla that has a need, either the chayla himself or a family member could do an Issa D'Rabbanan with a shinui. So now, let us try to apply this lamaisa. If a chayla needs medicine, and let's say there's no medicine at home, it's not a sakana, but the chayla needs medicine. So a family member could go to a house next door, whenever the case that it's not a malacha d'oraisa, a karmelis, or go through the backyard to a house adjoining your yard, which typically is not a malacha d'oraisa, it's chatz l'chatza, even though there's no erev, and carry the medicine in a shinui. Now, a very good shinui, we'll soon see, you put the medicine in the hat, in between the lining and the hat itself. For medicine, it works. And it's a good idea, we'll soon see another mile in that choice. But more specifically, talking about our chayla, who wants to go to shul, wants to go to a shir, wants to go to Shabbat brachas, but he needs the medicine at all times. So the heta would be to carry the medicine in a place that's only a karmelis d'Rabbanan with a shinui. Now, you'll say, why can he carry in his pocket already for the same money? That's chas v'shalom. In the pocket is a tzad d'oraisa. In the hat is a shinoi. Now, so the heta is because of the tzarech of the chayla. So it has to be a legitimate tzarech of the chayla. The Rav Shlomo Zalman in Shulchan Shloima in Shin Aleph Gimel, he says this only works by a place that's not a reshusharabim deraisa. A Carmelis, if you're living in a big city and it's a reshusharabim deraisa, it won't help. And he also adds that the heta is what you need. He shouldn't carry, like he does during the week, a pack of it and puts it in someplace in a shinoi. He doesn't need a pack of it. If he needs the most one or two, that should suffice. Now, Shlomo Zalman does add a chiddush that if Lamaisa he's in a place which is a reshusharabim deraisa l'chayra, he said b'shas atchak you could be soymach on the Chazon Ish in Siman Kuf Zayin, Sivkot and Hey Vav and Zayin, that most of our cities are not a reshusharabim deraisa, which is a great chiddush. But Shlomo Zalman says that. But what's the gear for us when a person's in a place that's not a reshusharabim deraisa, it's a pretty straightforward heta to carry the medicine with a shinoi. Now the emphasis is all the Heintige Poskim follow that lead, carry with a shinoi. The first one that said this, to my knowledge, that's famous for that, the Marash Engel in Chayla Gimel Siman Nun Gimel Mem Gimel writes. The year was 1919, Tov Reish Ayin Tes, and the government decreed that a person must carry ID at all times, even Shabbos. If he's caught without ID, he'd get beaten, imprisoned, or both. And people were bewildered. What do you do about Shabbos, going to shul? So Marash has this heta, the fact that he calls it a 3 drabbanans. The fact that it's a mitzvah to daven, Kriyas HaTorah. He says going to mikvah agav, it's one of his mishalim. And there are 3, starting to be mekel. First of all, it's a Carmelis. Most European cities, most small cities were Carmelis. It's a melacha shein tzricha legufa, and he's carrying the ID in the oifen of a shinoi. I guess you couldn't put it in the hat, but maybe put it between his shirt and his undershirt. But the mice he made a shinoi. Now Shlomo Zalman wondered, why is he calling carrying an ID a malacha shein tzricha legufa? You need it to show. Why is it in tzricha legufa? And the same kasha could be on the medicine. So I saw in the Piskei Tshuvas, he has a chap, he has a chap, and he says, l'chayre, he's right, memonishach. Because if he carried it to shul and he was not approached by a policeman, so stam ain't tzricha legufa, he didn't need it. If he was approached by a policeman, or he needed his medicine suddenly, then it's mutter without a heta, pekuach nefesh. Now, but the emphasis is when every moment you're carrying it, he feels secure that he has it. But the emphasis, the Marash Engel is famous for this yisoid, that carrying something to get out of trouble, that's probably the heta, is ein tzricha legufa. But other poskim wonder, why is there ein tzricha legufa? So this heta might be, mamanashach. So think about that. But one thing we have to understand, which I'm a little concerned about, Marash Engel, Rav Shlomo Zalman, all these poskim say the only heta is for a dvar mitzvah, going to shul, again going to shir, Shabbat brachas, simchas mekala. But stam v'til ba'alma wouldn't be a heta. L'chayra, if the chayla needs it for his health, people have to go for a walk. Chazon Ish went for a walk every single day. In fact, including Shabbos. So, not a stroll, but a health walk, I would think that's takamuta. The Machzor Yo says that what the chayla needs is lav dafka davening. If he needs the fresh air, it needs the emotional health. So when they say walk, it means a walk that's purely for the pleasure of it. There is another heta that many poskim say when possible, and I stress that because you have to be focused on doing it right. Let's say a person lives in a big city, and it's reshusharabim deraisa, so the whole heta falls away. So there is a yisoid, the Beis Halevi is famously quoted as relying on this, that even if you're living in a big city, and carrying is a deraisa. But if you go from your house, reshus hayachid, to the shul, reshus hayachid, without stopping, anywhere along the way, that's called reshus hayachid, reshus hayachid, derech reshusharabim be'emtza. Since you never stopped in reshusharabim, it's reduced to an issa d'rabbanan. Now the lumbus is not for now, but it makes sense. You never stopped in reshusharabim. So here, if you could do it safely, I quote that, that's an alternative. Go from your house straight to the shul and don't stop. Now that's good if you live in a suburban area, but if you live in a big city, there's something called a red light. And what do you do when you get to the red light? You know, my Shver Zechariah Baruch told me he's once walking with Rabbi Kozovsky, another Bacham. They were talking, learning on Shabbos. It was during the week. And the Bach was very absent-minded. He started walking into the street when there was a red light. So Reuven grabbed him and says, Yavar va'al yehorig. Don't get killed, please. So here also, you can't walk into a red light. So to do like the joggers do, lahavdil, when they get to red light, they stay and they jump up and down. That probably won't work because he stopped. So the eighth is keep on going around. Now he might get arrested for being a chayfetz chashud. Like, what are you doing? He's walking around. So that's why it has to be practical. Now I did see also, and this is beautiful, the Melamed Lahoyel Simon Samach Dalet, one of the Gdolei of Germany. He does not talk about this shaila per se, but he has a whole shtickle. If there's a issa haitzah l'maylam yasar tvachim, and he says that they're based on a Magid Mishnah. There's no issa deraisa carrying above 10 tvachim. So that's why keeping medicine in a hat has a double mile. Besides that, it's a shinui. It's also like some the rabbanan right away with a maylam yasara. The Machzor Eliyahu has a beautiful tshuva. You want to see the Havana of the Sugya in Chelik Beis Siman Yud Aleph. He feels that the best way to carry medicine is find a place in the lining of his coat or in a tie and put it there on a permanent basis, weekday and Shabbos. That, he says, the fact that it's inaccessible because it's sewn in makes it sort of a bottle to the beged. It's in the pocket, it's in the lining of the coat, and that makes it bottle because you basically forget about it until you need it. And he has an interesting chiddush, which people ask me this. They have a long winter coat and a penny fell in from a hole in the pocket deep to the bottom. You can't get to it. You have to tear apart the whole coat. So he says if it's there and you can get to it, it's bottle. So this is his mahalach. Put the medicine in a place where it's attached, not attached literally, but connected to the clothing. Now, one thing he doesn't explain, what I understand is, but he has to take it out when he needs it. But evidently, until he needs it, it's tuffle to where it is. Now, Lamaisa, as you see, carrying medicine is not so pashut. It's based on a drabanan, b'makam tzayrich. If, again, I'm not saying this is possible always, if someone has a condition and he's moving anyhow, it might be advisable to move to a place to have an Erev. Pashut avoids the problem. Or at least to a place that's not of Sharabim deraisa. A band-aid, a gauze pad, that's the Beferish Machaba, Beferish Gemara. That's the case of Moich and his Mutta. Even if the wound is healing, and he's only wearing the band-aid to protect from an infection, that's also the case of Mishama, that the Mishtabur is Mekel. But a bigger Chiddush, someone has a cut, and it's fine, but it's unsightly, it's not pleasant, and he wants to cover it, push it, for the aesthetics of it, for the cosmetic purpose of it. So this I saw the Shmir Shabbos in Yutches Yutes. He quotes the Mishtabur in Shin Aleph Nun Sif Nun Vav and Sif Kat Nun Vav and the Sharetzi and Nun Tes, that if it's attached to him, that even though it's not a refuah, it's not even a shama, but it's a tzorich of his appearance, so wearing a band-aid over a wart that he wants to conceal, if he's wearing it, it becomes part of him. It's not mamish refuah, it's not mamish mishama, but it's good enough. Someone punked the Esprit Shabbos, he was walking, he was krechting, he hurt his knee, and he thought you can't wear a knee brace on Shabbos. I said, what's wrong with a knee brace? A knee brace, a back brace, a rupture belt, all these things are at tzarech haguf. That's one. And there's no shaila, it's mutlach hatchila. Braces, or these type of things for the teeth, again, they're attached to the teeth, they're at tzarech for the teeth. The refuah, straightening the teeth, is ongoing. That's mamish a case of a ongoing refuah. The only question is retainer. Now, there are different types, but some retainers you wear by day and take it off at night. So the Chut Shani says, and that's Chelik Dal, Omid Kuf Lamed Ches, if you're not wearing it day and night, it's not batal to the guf. But I did see the Archa Shabbos at Omid Kuf Pei Hey, Chelik Gimel. He says, the fact that you're wearing it for most of the day, and it's healing that part of the day, why isn't that enough of a heta? The only issue is with the retainers, some of them, when they get to a later stage, they only wear it when they go to sleep. The rest of the day, they don't wear it. So that's hard to say it's batal to the guf by day. The Chut Shani asked an interesting question, which is a better teretz, but the question is also valid. Dentures, false teeth, are mutar on Shabbos. But let's say someone takes it off at night, like typically the case. So why isn't the same shaila? Maybe it's not completely part of the person. So he says that the ick of the braces, of the false teeth, is the appearance. And I saw a quote from the ADA that the most common reason for wearing dentures is to improve the appearance. So once it's considered a tachshit, then even if only by day or only in the street, plus it makes it easier to talk, but at the end of the day, dentures are much better than the bite plate or the retainers, and that's always mutter. People have an ear problem, and they put cotton in their ears. So the Shmir Shabbos Yud Ches Siv Chaf says it's mutter. It's a tzarech for the guf. The Marshag in Chelik Bey Siman Kuf Chavav wonders why is there no Issa Refuah for one Shabbos Zasa unless he's sick. So he says it's not a refuah, it's keeping out the cold air. Now there is a new sefer came out, the Kuntres HaZechronis of the Chazanish, the Reb Chaim Kanievsky recorded them, and in Amud Reish Lamed Daled it says there that Chazanish was not makel unless he attached the cotton to his ears, which I don't know how it's shaykh. But most places can feel that if it's securely fastened in the ear itself, that's okay. A sling for a broken arm, it's perfectly mutter. Tzarech havaguf. People have a bracelet or a necklace for rheumatism. So again, it seems to work. The Shmir Shabbos in Lamed Dal Tezvav says it's mutter. His only problem is why is it not Darchei Amayri? But if it works, it's fine. An ace bandage that's not glued onto his hand, but it's attached with clips, is the same heta. Shmir Shabbos Yud Ches Chaf says it's a tzorech of the guf, and what's the problem? Yeah. There is a more of a challenging issue, and this is unfortunately Negeya, where people have certain medical conditions, and they must wear at all times what's called a medical ID bracelet or necklace that basically has their vital information, the blood type, their allergies. And one person, I forgot the details, it was a long time ago, but he said if he collapses and they treat him the way they treat a person that collapsed, that could kill him. He has a different type of problem that he has to be treated based on his condition. And he must wear at all times a necklace that says what to do. I hope the Atzala members are aware of that. But here we have a person that must have vital information. But men don't wear necklaces, and this is not a tachshit, a bracelet, not a tachshit. So the question is, unlike the previous cases, he's wearing a kameya, which is an ongoing refuah. This is not an ongoing refuah. It's not even an ongoing shmira at that point because he's not sick. So here we come to a beautiful yisoid. The Or Zerah, one of the Rishonim, in Perik Pei Daled, Siv Gimel, he lived in Vienna, don't forget. But he writes, when I was in France, Ani Machaba, when I was in France, and the government decreed you have to wear a oifanim ala begodim. Now that's conventionally touched, as a yellow star. This goes back a long time ago. He had to wear a yellow star. So I said, since you have to wear it at all times, it becomes part of the person. And this is quoted in Shulchan Aruch Siv Chav Gimel, Agulim Yeraikim, that the malchus decreed you must wear, is mutter as long as it's attached to the beged. A similar halach is in Siman Shin Dalet Sif Aleph, that a beged could go out with his identity, an eved could go out with his identity. Why is it mutter? So it says the Hilchas Chag B'Chag, Chele Gimel, Omet Taf Yud Zayin. There's a beautiful discussion, and he says, whatever a person wears 24/7 becomes part of him. And therefore he says, this necklace, this ID necklace that he wears 24/7, and in the next sif he says a person, a zokin, or a chayli nefesh, sometimes they're confused, they don't know where they are, where they live, who they are. Same heta. They're allowed to wear a bracelet with their name, phone number, address. He's very emphatic about that becomes part of the person. Of course, in Eretz Yisrael, for the soldiers that have to wear those IDs, if they need a blood transfusion, so the Shmir Shabbos, Yud Ches, Chav Beis, and Rabbi Falk in his Sefer all say a ID brace that's worn 24/7 is bottle to the guf. Now, the Sefer Roifei Nem, in a beautiful Sefer on Yoni Refuah, he's a little more machmir. It's page 183. He says only mutter in a Karmelis D'Rabbanan. But the other poskim do not seem to be concerned about that. A common question, I should be more common, a person's wife had a baby, the Avi Hayeled we'll call him, and they give him, after the birth, a bracelet ID for one reason, to gain admittance to the hospital. You want to visit your wife or baby, show your ID. So that's not a malbush, it's not a tachshit, and it's not worn forever. So most poskim hold that's like carrying a key to get into the hospital, or carrying a card. He's not sick. Now, maybe Shalom Bayis is a factor, but he gets a chanetza. I asked number of people, goes, nah, don't worry, you tell the guy before Shabbos, or you cut it up before Shabbos and you hide it in the hall. Yidden gets a chanetza. Now, sometimes some hospitals, they put onto you a sticker with a name, number, whatever it is. So that I saw some are more makel, because if it's stuck on, it's like the pads that the nashim stick on to begadim. If it's stuck on to be there, maybe it's more bottle to the beged. That's questionable, but that's more of a tzad heta than wearing a bracelet. Now someone asked about wearing a reiter bendel on Shabbos. So reiter bendel during the week, as we know, many question that. But if you wear it on Shabbos during the week, so Pashtus will say is mutter. But the Nishma Shabbos in Siman Kuflan Haysi Cotton Bays, he says ayin hara is not a machla. It's like a shmira from the future. Maybe it's only mutter in a karmelis. So I guess he's equating that with less than a refuah item. But again, if you go with the heta that he wears it constantly, the hardat should be mutter. It's almost the yard side of this shaila, the COVID masks during the COVID epidemic. So a mask is not a malbish and not a tachshit, but maybe it's a refuah. Maybe even if it's not a refuah, it's a shmira, and that we said is mutter. And lamaisa, for the person that wants to wear it to protect himself, together with millions of people, like was around the world, it's easy to say that would be like one of his malbushim at that time. The fact that it's worn by millions of people makes it more of a heta. The Skveradayin in his sefer on COVID, it's Siman Mem, he adds especially the fact that it's disposable, so it's worn pashut as a ongoing shmira. It doesn't have enough of a chashivas, and it's bottle. This reminds me of the question about a reflector. A reflector that's worn in Lakewood and Muncie. So the poskim hold not only you should wear it when it's needed, and it's based on a meiri that kol anasa l'shmira einay masli, and this is a shmira. It's a very necessary shmira. So definitely during COVID, when someone wore a mask to protect himself, is mutter. The problem is when he holds, I'm above it, he has antibodies, whatever the case is, he doesn't wear it for himself. Can he wear it for others? So here the answer is Zilbasa Taima. Shmira of your own is mutam, and someone else doesn't count. You know, a bacha came to the Chazon Ish for a feher on Bava Kama. Chazon Ish asked him, tell me, when you give someone a knife, a sharp knife, how do you give it? Do you hold on to the handle, and he takes the blade, hold on to the blade, and he takes the handle? So the child says, I don't know, but I know when we give it, we hold on to the blade. He goes, yes, you're right. But it's a tais in Bava Kama. Chav Zayin Amid Beis, tais says, Yois yesh lishmar shlo yazik, b'shlo yuzak. A yid has to be more careful not to damage Yenim than be damaged himself. So I'm thinking that applies to a mask. Shlo yazik acherim is also part of our heta. And taka, this would be, and the Skar Dayan has two makaris for this, that for someone else is also mutam. I saw a beautiful tshuva, the Machzor Yochelik Beis Siman Yud, Sif Katan Tezayin, he brings two gemaras, that you're allowed to wear something, not to mazik someone else. So either way you look at it, the mask was mutam. Some people are only wearing it for the government, so that we have Marash angle. If there's a fine, he might get, I don't think get imprisoned, but that would be enough of a tzad heta. What's interesting is, and this is in Yana Diyoima, the Mechaber discusses masks, you should know. Not COVID, but in Sif Chaf, he says you can't go out with a Purim costume, or Frame, which is a mask. Zot Mishnah, why not? Because it's not a Malbish, it's not a Tachshit. And that's why on Purim, this year Purim is Friday into Shabbos, now Yisrael, certainly in Negeya, you can't walk out with costumes, with a mask. The only thing which is probable is if someone wears Lamashal a policeman's uniform. So that's a derech malbish for some, well, that's mutter. If he's a chassid, dresses like a litvak or vice versa, fine. But a regular mask, just to cover the face, on Purim Shabbos would be awesome. Now, the EpiPen shaila is a pretty simple maskana. If he carries it derech shinoi, it's mutter. Now, you can't keep it in the hat, they typically keep it in the socks, definitely a shinui way, and that's fine. Now, what I mentioned earlier when we began, the port, it's called, actually the right word is catheter, but the port is attached to the person, and that's the way they put in infusion, IV, or a feeding tube. So that is problematic at first glance, because it's totally dysfunctional. He's not using it. He's going to shul, there's no IV, there's no feeding, so he's carrying a port. But here, many paiskim, the Chutshani says this in Kuf Chavtes, the Nishma Shabbos, Kuf Memches, they say since it's attached to the person and he always goes like that, it becomes bottle. I'm not sure why, but the Shevet HaLevi in Chelik Tes Siman Samach Zayin, he is not so convinced it's mutter. He is considered Haitzah, Sheloi Kederach, but Lamais it's Haitzah. But it seems that this would be part of the person. And Taka, the Paiskim point out that that's something that's worn on a regular basis becomes part of the person. And now we can say the last group, Achrein Chaviv, which is negeh for many people, is the marshal an insulin pump, not just an insulin port, but they have to walk around today. It's Baruch Hashem, a lot of Chesed Hashem, that it's much easier for people that are diabetics, especially juvenile, Baruch Hashem don't have this, and they have a insulin pump that regulates how much insulin is needed, and some of them even provide the insulin. So it's wonderful, and it's a wonderful chesed, but it's hard to say it's bottle. How is something as significant as a bottle? And Taka the Shevet HaLevi in that tshuva, Rabbi Yashiv in the Sefer Roifei Neman, page 189, feel that there's no heta. You're carrying something of great chashivas. A Band-Aid is bottle, but not a pump. Now, Rav Nissen Karyelis and Chutshani Amud Kuf Memalef L'Shitasai, whatever is a tzairich of refuah, an ongoing tzairich, is bottle. And he's even makel with this insulin pump. The redeeming factor with the insulin pump is that it's ongoing. It monitors what he needs, and it provides what he needs. So we could say it's not pashut, but at least Rav Nissen Karyelis is makel. And the shverste shaila is some people that have light that they can't breathe on their own, and they have an oxygen tank. It's not a big one. It's either small that they carry in a backpack, or they wheel around on a wheel. But this Rabbi Yashiv and Ashri Ish Yudalit Aleph, Shem Zalman and Shulchan Shleim Taf Lamed Beis, and the Orchos Shabbos Kuf Samach Vav all say it's very important. But how could you be makel by it with a deraisa? He's carrying a real important item. The Rabbanon with the Shini is fine. But again, the Chutshani, and this is in his Sefer, is makel. As is the Hilchos Shabbos B'Shabbos Shin Sadik Ches, that if this is a tzorech haguf, somehow even what you wheel is mutter. The last shayla, someone, he needed a halter monitor, basically to record his heart activity, to see what's wrong. See, that is more of a problem, because it's not a tzorech refuah, it's a much later to know what to do. And also, the doctors say that really you could skip a day. Those that need it could skip a day. So that should not be worn, because again, it's avoidable. What the shaila is, when someone needs something and it's considered a tzorech haguf, and he's wearing a derech malbush, that would be mutter. A good and tov to you all.
Shem Yigan Shir Ter, like you big Yashagatar Smith for today's share. Rabbi Say Yigan Shir Ter is starting the Worldwide Shalom Project today. 100,000 Yidden Be'ez Hashem will be taking part in thousands, tens of thousands of shiurim throughout the world. Thousands of shiurim. Please be mishtatev and help Yigan Shir Ter with the great expenses involved in this avachelik, in the reshus of halacha and all the halachos that Yidden are learning by being mishtatev, sponsoring a share for $1,000. Call 718-851-8651 or 853-3950 to have this great schus. As you got to one for coming, Chananya ben Akashem, Rotzigesh Bochel, Zakis, and Sel of Hibram Taramita, Shanem Alanoi Chofis, and Mansudki, Yagdul Terviade. Gadol Vizgadol Shnei Rabba. Oh, the Vizgadol 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 Leider גם חסר ושירות ושמות ומסבים ויום ובמאומן על יסור רבונים התלמידים ותלמידים סמלים כל מעדות סמרתי ותלמידים לבגלל סבא סעי אלון ושום רבחין ובזרח וחיה לחזון ובכל מקום ומשמע ויער ובמאומן יש למה משמע חיים תבלין עוד כל יסור במאומן ושומרים לו וישומרים עוד כל יסור במאומן.
Aren't the catheters taped?
Yeah, we can take it off.
Well, I mean, you can take off the label. So I'm talking about it should be covered.
If it's not a tzorech, we don't talk about it. Yeah, okay.
Rabbi say, Be'ez Hashem, we should be zeichet to be yaitz all these halachos by learning them. There shouldn't be no yalamais of the sikim and medical shabbos.
Okay, Rabbi, let's just chazar what we learned today, that basically Shabbos is Shabbos, but a person gesund is a person gesund. The heta of refuah is not just a heta of refuah. It has to be somehow either a dava hamarpe, it's marpe right then, mishamer, and it's part of the person. That's the basic klal. Stam to carry medicine, if it's not merape, is not a heta. So what we saw basically is that there's one group of shilas when something becomes regularly day. A cane, if you can't walk without it, is mutter. Crutches, walker, scooter crutch, and I should mention, even if it's not a tzarech mitzvah, if that's regularly day, it's mutter without a tzarech mitzvah, you could go for a stroll. The wheelchair is machlekes how to look at it, either regularly day or not. Nafkamina is it better to ask a guy or a yid could do it? But going up the steps, you have to make sure that a yid doesn't do that. For that, you'd have to have a guy. If there's a tzarech, which often is not a tzarech, leave it downstairs and lock it up. A dava that's merape or meshamer, any type of kameya, any type of physical or metaphysical shmira or refuah is okay. But the heta is, it becomes like a tachshit and a malbish all in one, because it's tzarech haguf. But something that is mutter, the moshe carrying medicine, which is not a malbish or tachshit, and it's not a marpe, then you have to have a drabanon with a shinoi. Carry the medicine in one's hat, and in a place with only drabanon. The band-aid, a gauze pad, anything that protects someone is mutter, even if it's not merape, even if it's to cover an unsightly wound, it's also mutter. A back brace, a knee brace, braces, dentures, retainers, they're all tzorchei haguf, and it's okay. A cotton in the ear is okay. A sling is mutter. Rheumatism, necklace is okay. Ace bandage is all tzorchei haguf. A medical ID, most places can make, certainly in a reshus rabbanon. A father wearing a newborn, father of the newborn, an ID bracelet should not be worn. If it's stuck on to his beged and it goes the whole Shabbos, someone more makel. The right to bendel, depending on when he wears it. If he wears it 24/7, it's probably mutter. The COVID mask is mutter. The Purim mask should not be worn on Purim, Shabbos Shechal Purim. A reflector should be worn, especially if you wear it as a belt. There's mamish no shayla. The EpiPen to carry with the shina is okay. The port, typically the belt is makel. IV, insulin pump, and oxygen tank, that's a much more shvera shayla, because there it's something of chshivas, and some hold it should not be used, certainly not in a reshusharabim deraisa.